Shalom, shalom. Are y'all able to hear me? All praises. All praises.
Shalom. Loud and clear.
All right, yeah. Well, um, continuing in the series, this one is really kind of a lesson in its own right. But it'll all make sense as we continue throughout the rest of this particular thing on unity. Um, it'll contribute to that discussion. Um, so yeah, unity, the strength of a people. When I think that's supposed to be part. No, I think we part six. Know thyself, know thy enemy. Today we dealing with resilience, right? So last go around we talked about how if you don't know yourself, if you don't know your enemy, you pretty much got ills coming, right? The saying went, if you know yourself but don't know your enemy, you're gonna fail half the time, right? So 5 and 5. Sometimes you're gonna win some, sometimes you're gonna lose some. If you don't know either one, you're going on 10. You're gonna lose every time, right? So, but he also said that if you know yourself and you know your enemy, then you don't need to even worry about going into battle because you know you got it, right? So we're gonna kind of dig into that a little bit more because really, when you think about it, it's saying a lot. Like if you know yourself, then you know the lines that you're not gonna cross and the lines that you won't allow others to cross with you, right? So that means in certain situations that you yourself not even gonna be put yourself in because you know yourself, right? Then you got knowing your enemy. Okay, now that here I am, because I know myself and because I know that the enemy is going to try XYZ, knowing myself, again, I got this, right? So it's really saying a whole lot. And as we continue to go through the series, we'll try to unpack it more and more. Because it's one of those things that is really worth us paying attention to and getting a firm handle on.
Sure.
So we got our disclaimer, right? The scriptures expressed in this study are those of the author and not my own. So viewer discretion is advised. We're gonna skip the little summary part right there. But we're gonna jump straight to Hebrews 4, right? It says, let us therefore do our utmost to enter into that rest, lest anyone fall after the same example of disobedience. For the word of Elohim is living and working and sharper than any two-edged sword, cutting through even to the dividing of being and spirit, and of joints and marrow, and able to judge the thoughts and intentions of the heart. And there is no creature hidden from his sight, but all are naked and laid bare before the eyes of him with whom is our account, right? We know how the fencer, how the swordsmith gets down, right? Stand in front of it, and he gonna get you, right? But again, as we're gonna see with this lesson, his goal is always gonna be for our uplift and our upbuilding and for our betterment. If we willing to let go of whatever it is he's trying to cut away,
Mhm.
but if you want to hold on to it as he sling the sword, then you just might get in the way of the sword, and then instead of it getting cut away, you might get cut in two. So, um, yeah, just something to keep in mind. Right. So these lessons are not directed at any one person or group, but are intended to be edifying and useful to all who have joined themselves to the covenant of Yahuwah. The Father is impartial and none can avoid him, even the person who is tasked with presenting the lesson. I myself, right? So we are all held to this standard, and none of us are above his ways and corrections and reproofs. Romans 2:1 says, therefore, O man, you are without excuse, everyone who judges, for in which you judge another, you condemn yourself, since you who judge practice the same wrongs. And we know that the judgment of Elohim is according to truth against those who practice such wrongs. And do you think, oh man, you who judge those practicing such wrongs and doing the same, that you shall escape the judgment of Elohim? Right. So it's a rhetorical question. It's not happening. Right. So, um, yeah, you stand in front of it and you're gonna get cut. Right. My wig can get split, is split. But it's a told thing, right? Because that's the process of going glory to glory, as we said in previous lessons, and learning his ways, right? So really that's what this lesson is going to be about, is about looking forward to that process, right?
All praises.
So in the last lesson, we discussed how the adversary uses certain tactics to attack at opportune times. We saw how important it was that we know ourselves and our enemy in order for us to come out as victorious in the battle. So this week we will talk about something that we all will need in order for us to withstand the challenges that may come. So this lesson is intended to serve as an encouragement to keep fighting the good fight, right? So that's the overall tone of what the lesson is about. So as we dig through it, remember that that's what it's about, right? So as we continue this topic regarding the adversary, it's important to understand that the adversary cannot force any judgment on you, no matter how much he accuses, right? So important point, because as we looking at the enemy, and we spent the whole lesson last time talking about tactics of the enemy and all of this, like, I don't want it to be confused that it's this boogeyman that's out there that is you're powerless against, right? Like, it's nothing you can do about it. Like, if he gonna get you, he gonna get you. Like, no, the objective is that, like, if we had a father on our side, Mashiach done already done what he needed to do, then regardless of how the wind and waves blow, we should be able to stay centered and we should be able to stay okay. That's what building it on that rock was about. So yeah, he can't force you into nothing that the father hasn't already ordained for you, right? And that's really, if we can get that part understood, it's an instant level up. So the only ground that can be taken is the ground we give up as far as eternity is concerned, right? That's not saying that the wind and waves ain't gonna beat on the house. They will, but it's nothing that he can do to take the end goal and the prize that's at the end of your endurance away, unless you forfeit it. So understanding this should give us hope, knowing that unless Elohim says otherwise, we still have today to keep pushing and striving for life, right? So that's the bright side. So 1 Corinthians 10 and 13. We looked at this last week, but we're going to revisit it twice today, all right? So it says, no trial is overtaking you except such as is common to man, and Elohim is trustworthy, who shall not allow you to be tried beyond what you are able, but with the trial shall also make the way of escape, enabling you to bear it. So as it pertains to unity, what can we glean from this verse on the left, right? As it pertains to unity, I should have blocked the answer and not put, but if y'all have any thoughts, it is a question. If not, we can keep it moving. But as that verse pertains to unity, like, what is that telling us? Once, twice, 3 times a lady. All praises.
I'll say, as the winds and waves come, when disruption tries to set in, um, we can realize that it's a common thing
All praises.
in the midst of a unified front for disruption to try to come in. So instead of being thrown off by it, let's buckle down on what we are tasked to do in order to maintain that unity until the storm passes.
All praises. So that's it exactly, right? So notice how it says that there are no trials that have overtaken us except that which is common to man, right? So that means that if it's not common to that, if it's not uncommon to man, right? It's not, that means it's not something that's unique to you. That means same thing that I'm going through, Mishpachah is going through,
Yeah.
right? And knowing that, we can call on one another, and as if we lean on that for strength, then we can get through the adversity together, right? And just keep in mind, like in the last lesson, how we saw um, this divide and conquer is a tactic of the enemy, right?
Yeah.
Get you on an island by yourself, make you think you in it by yourself, so that way he can pick you off by yourself,
Exactly.
right? So with this being said, this means that we have Mishpachah that understand our trials. Understanding this causes us to understand that we are not fighting the fight alone. Not only this, but we have the Father who provides a way of escape so that we can bear it. It is keeping our mind set on these two facts that allows us to keep pushing through the adversity with hope, right? So notice he says, not only what you're going through is the same thing that everybody's going through, right? But you also got the Father that will make a way for you to escape. Now, this ain't no guarantee that you'll be able to bear what comes your way. You have to take the way of escape, right? Like, this is not saying it's often looked at like nothing gets put on you that you can't bear. No, there's all kinds of stuff that can be put on you that can break an individual. It's a lot of broken folks, but that's because whatever the way of escape was may not have been seen or may not have been taken, right? So that's really what we're looking at there. But we know, like I said, we got one another. We got the Father. So we don't really have an excuse to have, well, it's me, right?
That's right.
Mm. So in this last lesson, we looked at this verse and we saw that this refers to having a sober mental state, right? Speaking of 1 Peter 5 and 8. This refers to our ability to maintain a clear mind through our adversities. We saw that it referred to our ability to not be affected by strong emotion and remain logical and rational, right? So 1 Peter 5 and 8 says, be sober, watch, because your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. Resist him firm in the belief, knowing that the same hardships are experienced by your brotherhood in the world, right? So again, we keep seeing that that's a highlight. And so there's a strength that can be gained by tapping into a unified mind with the Mishpachah and knowing that you're not alone.
And if it is fact that the things we are tried with are common to man, those that have had a successful walk that are recorded in these texts also were tried with similar things.
Mm-hmm.
And the Father made a way for them. These
Mm-hmm.
are changing.
Mm-hmm. All praises. All praises. So, in order for us to resist, we will need to master something within us. As we saw last lesson, when we are in certain states emotionally, causes may be internal or external. We are vulnerable to attack by the adversary. Now, mind you, he's called an adversary, and adversaries bring what? Adversity.
Mm-hmm.
So just keep that in mind. We saw that these were considered opportune times. It is in these times when the heat is turned on and we fight what feels like the fight of our life, right? So in that moment when the heat gets turned on, it feels like it's life or death, right? But notice what he's saying, it ain't the end of the world, knowing that ain't nothing that's happening to you uncommon to man, right? So again, notice the strength that is called upon by having a unified mind with our Mishpachah bride, knowing that all are in the same fight together and all are experiencing the same hardships. So this serves as encouragement, just like Ak was saying, knowing when one overcomes that adversity, it is possible for us all to overcome that same adversity, right? So this is why when we are focused on unity, a win for one is a win for all.
Hallelujah.
All praises.
a win for one is a win for all. That's a total statement because once you have maybe succeeded in accomplishing or overcoming the obstacle, now you can share with your brother or sister, well, this is what I did and it seemed to help. So maybe it can help you. So, yeah, that was a total statement.
All praises. All praises. So keep in mind what we read last lesson regarding Job. So the enemy's tactic was to use many trials and difficulties he sent on Job to get him to give up and die. Right. So remember what Job's wife said to him. This tactic is used by the adversary often. When we are not resilient and lose sight of the hope of the future, we are only left with the option to self-destruct. Right. So that's what in essence she was getting at, right? Like, you still hold on to your integrity. Why don't you just curse Elohim and die? Right? Like, why are you still holding on to this? And why are you keep on pushing in this state? Right? You might as well go ahead and end it now. Right? End your suffering now. But like, we're gonna see that like the way that it works with the Father is it's always going to be about endurance. It's always going to be about pushing through the trials. It's always going to be about meeting adversity with resilience. So, resilience, right? So, and then just keep in mind that we talking about a thing with the mindset. So, is your glass half full or is it half empty? Right? How do you see the glass? Is the same amount of water in the glass? Right? It's the same glass, same water. But one is looking at it as what we need, which is what we lack, what we don't have, right? And one is looking at what we already have, right? So two completely opposite ends of the spectrum, right? So resilience, it's the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties, i.e. toughness, right? It's the ability of a substance or object to spring back into shape, elasticity. So imagine a rubber band, right? You pull it, you pull it, you pull it, you pull it. Once the tension is released, it goes back to its original state, right? It's a resilient object, if you will. And as long as it's not stretched beyond that breaking point, it can bounce back, right? Oh, again, just keep all of this in mind. Resilience is the psychological quality that allows some people to be knocked down by the adversities of life and come back at least as strong as before. Rather than letting difficulties, traumatic events, or failure overcome them and drain their resolve, highly resilient people find a way to change course, emotionally heal, and continue moving forward toward their goals, right? And this is all like the psychology. The psychologists understand this. And we're going to see that this is really what the goal has been, that the Father has been trying to teach us this the whole time. And this is one of those things that we as a people have lacked. Right? So does this mean that there's a dual nature to adversity if we have the right mindset? Right? Like with the right mindset, when adversity comes, instead of us tucking tail and hiding and just going out to lunch, we can meet it with some resilience and understand that this really is for our betterment. It's for our building up, if we'll allow it to have his way, right?
Yeah.
So adversity would imply that there is an adversary that is an agent that brings it forth, right? So just as we saw in the book of Job, however, this adversity is also used by the Father to prove and refine you if you will allow it. Resilience is not trying to change the past. It is, however, accepting the past for what it is and not allowing it to dictate the future, right? So that's the pivot point, because we'll see that, well, we won't go over that today because I didn't want to make it too lengthy. But that was one of the things, anytime that we had anything that looked like resilience as a people, it was oftentimes just not accepting the past, right? Like when he said, no, you're not going to the promised land. We will go. And it's like, nah, you got to accept the situation as it is what it is. And from here, how do we move? Right?
Yeah.
Can't go back in the past and change that. Right? Y'all was trying to kill Moses and Aaron and everything else along that way. Y'all said, no, we won't go. So here's the consequence. But at this point, now what do we do? Right? We know in Psalms it talks about how that generation, not only did they not make it in, but they didn't set up the next generation to be successful. Right? Then we get into beginning of Judges, and it's talking about how that generation didn't know war. And we know in the book of Joshua, when he was going into the promised land, they weren't circumcised. So that whole generation lacked resilience. Once they found out it was up for us, they just gave up.
Yeah, that's the thing about humility, is accepting the cup that the Father gives you instead of trying to choose your own cup.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you definitely have to have a personal relationship with him so that you know that he's giving you this cup.
Mm-hmm. 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 All praises. All praises. So resilience is a skill that not only helps you to resist the attacks of the adversary, but it is also necessary for you to bounce back in the event that you miss the mark, right? So back to 1 Corinthians 10 and 13, no trial is overtaking you except such as is common to man. So notice the trial overtook some folk, right? But bounce back, because none of this is uncommon to everybody else. So you see it, you can look to your side, look all around, and there's people that keep on living life. So that means if they can keep living life, that means you can too, as long as the Father gives it to you, right?
Yeah.
The mistake and the issue comes in there when we believe the lie that the adversary has taught us, and we go out to lunch.
Yeah.
Now his tactic done, he got you, right? So it says, who shall not allow you to be tried beyond what you are able, but with the trial shall also make a way of escape, enabling you to bear it, right? So again, we just read that, but reading it again, keep that in mind, right? I'm gonna bounce over to the definitions here. Definitions of resilience. It says the physical property of a material that can return to its original shape or position after deformation that does not exceed its elastic limit, right? So now look at what he just said in 1 Corinthians 10 and 13, right? Whatever stretches you out, now you can bear it, right? All you got to do is look for him in the midst of it, and he'll provide a way for you to be able to deal with it. Bounce back, right? Yeah, it might be spread thin, might be at the breaking point, but as long as you don't pass the breaking point, spring back, right? He already told you if you his that he gonna make a way so that you don't have to meet the breaking point, right? But that's not to say that he ain't gonna stretch you to the limit. This is what the Father does, in order so that you can build up that strength. So it says, number 2, it says an occurrence of rebounding or springing back, right? The ability to recover readily from adversity or change. So now, adversity and change, just keep them in mind, because it's a relationship that these two, they go hand in glove, right? So resilience is the process and outcome of successfully adapting to difficult or challenging life experiences, especially through mental, emotional, and behavioral flexibility and adjustment to external and internal demands, right? So not only is it the outcome or the result, right, but it's a day-to-day, step-by-step thing. It's the process as well. So it's the journey and the destination. A number of factors contribute to how well people adapt to adversities, including the ways in which individuals view and engage with the world. So your mindset can determine how resilient you are, right? The availability and quality of social resources and specific coping strategies. Psychological research demonstrates that the resources and skills associated with resilience can be cultivated and practiced. So if you lack it and you don't have it, it's something that can be cultivated and practiced, right? So this is a good opportunity to look within self and to look at how you deal with trials when they come. And to say, okay, do I have resilience? How resilient am I? And once I determine where I am, I know what steps to take now going from that point, right? So Hebrews 12:3 says, for consider him who endured such opposition from sinners against himself, lest you become weary and faint in your lives. So becoming weary and fainting is a lack of resilience, right? Now bouncing back from being stretched, you just break, right? He says, you have not yet resisted unto blood. So that means what? You only thought you hit the breaking point, but you didn't hit it, right? Striving against sin. And you have forgotten the appeal which speaks to you as sons. My son, do not despise the discipline of Yahuwah, nor faint when you are reproved by him. For whom Yahuwah loves, he disciplines and flogs every son whom he receives. If you endure discipline, Elohim is treating you as sons. For what son is there whom a father does not discipline? But if you are without discipline, of which all have become sharers, then you are illegitimate and not sons. So again, of which all have become sharers, right? So if we are if we belong to the Father, that means that this is a part of the process as well. This is what comes along with the territory.
Yes, sir.
Praises. So our resilience as a people collectively has been tested by adversity throughout history. This collective resilience is something that the Father has called us to have in order to gain restoration. Israel as a people have lacked the resilience to turn to the Father in part because of blindness caused by hopelessness. When adversity puts us in a state of drunken despair, we lack the ability to adjust course and move in the Father's correction. When this is the case, the only option we see is to react according to our past trauma and current situations adversity. When there is no hope, the prospect of a better future loses its value, and each can only at best be concerned with self, right? In other words, it becomes every man for himself. This is how the adversary uses our lack of resilience against us to disturb our unity with one another, right? So, in other words, when you don't see the prospect of a better future, we're going to see that they're going to go into it. Then what's the point? Ain't no point. Every man for himself. I might as well just get what I can get out of it. But when you understand that, no, whatever this is going on now, it'll come to pass. It's all in the Father's hands. It's all according to his design. There's a little bit of adversity, or maybe a lot of bit of adversity, whatever the case, right?
Yeah.
We're told as long as we keep our eyes set on the prize, right? Bounce back, get back in the right groove, the right mental state, get back where we need to be, keep on pushing. So 2 Chronicles chapter 6, verse 21, it says, and shall you give heed, this is Solomon speaking when they dedicated the temple. It says, and shall you give heed to the supplications of your servant and of your people Israel, when they pray towards this place, and hear from your dwelling place in the heavens, and shall hear and forgive? If anyone sins against his neighbor, and he has lifted up an oath on him to cause him to swear, and comes and swears before your slaughter place in this house, then hear in the heavens and act, and rightly rule your servants, repaying the wrong by bringing his way on his own head, and declare right the righteous by giving him according to his righteousness. And if your people Israel are smitten before an enemy, so an adversary, adversity, because they have sinned against you, they shall turn back and confess your name and pray and make supplication before you in this house. Then hear in the heavens and forgive the sin of your people Israel and bring them back to the land which you gave to them and their fathers. When the heavens are shut up, adversity, and there is no rain because they have sinned against you, and they shall pray toward this place and confess your name and turn from their sin because you afflict them, then hear in the heavens and forgive the sin of your servants, your people Israel, for you teach them the good way in which they should walk, and shall send rain on your land, which you have given to your people as an inheritance. When there is scarcity of food, adversity, in the land, when there is pestilence or blight or mildew, locusts or grasshoppers, when their enemies distress them in the land of their cities, any plague or any sickness, whatever prayer, whatever supplication is made by anyone or by all your people Israel, when each one knows his own plague and his own grief and spreads out his hands to this house, then hear from the heavens your dwelling place and forgive and give to everyone according to all his ways, whose heart you know, for you alone know the hearts of the sons of men, so that they fear you to walk in your ways as long as they live in the land which you gave to our fathers. Also concerning a foreigner. Oh, so perhaps I just wonder if maybe some of these foreigners could be from some of these very lands where we was receiving some of this affliction. And even there's hope for them, right? If they turn from a wicked way and turn to the Father. That's just, again, that's what the hope really should be.
Mm-hmm.
But without that hope of what the kingdom is going to be, then yeah, we just going to be mad at the oppression, because any oppression is going to make a wise man mad. It's going to drive you crazy. But at any rate, yeah. Verse 32, and also concerning a foreigner who is not of your people Israel, but who comes from a far land, for the sake of your great name and your strong hand and your outstretched arm, when they come and pray in this house, then hear from the heavens your dwelling place, and do according to all which the foreigner calls to you for, so that all the people of the earth know your name and fear you, as do your people Israel, and to know that this house which I have built is called by your name. When your people go out to battle against their enemies in the way that you send them, and they shall pray to you toward this city which you have chosen, and toward the house which I have built for your name, then shall you hear from the heavens their prayer and their supplication, and maintain their cause. When they sin against you, for there is none who does not sin, and you become enraged with them and give them to the enemy, adversity, and they take them captive to a land far or near. We can look around and see adversity. And they shall turn back unto their heart, resilience, in the land where they have been taken captive, and shall turn and make supplication to you in the land of their captivity, saying, we have sinned, we have acted crookedly, and have done wrong. And when they return to you with all their heart and with all their being in the land of their captivity, where they have taken them captive, and they shall pray toward their land which you gave to their fathers, and the city which you have chosen, and toward the house which I have built for your name, then shall you hear from the heavens your dwelling place, their prayer and their supplications, and maintain their cause, and forgive your people who have sinned against you. He asks this as a question, and then we know that in the next chapter the Father answered and said, all of that you said, I got you. Right? So it really is as simple as that with the Father. Remain resilient. When the wave's gonna come for whatever reasons, right? A lot of times because of our own doing or the state of our people collectively, right? But that's not reason to tuck tail and hide and to lose hope, because This is part of the process.
Yeah.
Right. So notice we were called to turn back to the Father in the face of adversity. This requires the people to acknowledge their current state and the reasons for it. With this being said, there was no hope of changing the past, but they understood that with the proper action in the present moment, there was hope for their future, right? So keep in mind Leviticus 26. This is the reason why he said, and acknowledging the sins and the transgressions and the iniquities of your fathers, right? Yeah, this is the reason why y'all in this state collectively, right? And yeah, y'all doing the same stuff. But from this point forward, you don't have to stay in this captivity. You don't have to stay in this bondage. You don't have to stay in this state. I'm here as long as you return. That's resilience. But if we only see the oppression, if we only see the current situation, then we're gonna stay stuck in that endless loop. Now is we got the 7 times more coming. Right. So it says, when this is not done, however, and there is no hope for the future, the people did not see repentance as an option and chose to assimilate or die in their transgressions. This is a consequence of a lack of resilience. This tactic has been used to keep the people scattered, right? So there's a reason why we still scattered to this day. Because he already said Deuteronomy 30, we already saw 2 Chronicles, and he's done that several times, where we would be in the hands of the enemies and we would turn collectively as a people, and he would heal and return us to the land. So what is it telling us? That perhaps it's some work that we still have to do, and some resilience that we have to have as a people to not run, tuck tail, and hide in the face of the adversity, or just give into it, right? We know in Maccabees, we've talked about that. Moray has gone over it in his lessons of Maccabees, right? We've seen how there were some that stood up and said, nah, whatever is going to come, that's just what's going to come. But then we also saw that there was a lot that was like, the Greeks are coming. I want to go to the bathhouse and to the gymnasium as well. Let's take their ways. It's better that we do that than die, right? So no resilience is going to cause you to stay in that endless loop, right? But if we stand up and say, whatever it is going to be, from this point forward, we're going to maintain our ground. I know myself. I know my enemy. Then we got a fighting chance.
And it's deep on this side of it, realizing, no, wait, we are coming out of a captivity. And aren't completely out of it because mentally we've been shackled up, broken. And the Father is exposing to those who will give ear to him the level of devastation. But one thing that has not been fully made plain to us, which is necessary for us to fully be resilient and return to that original form, is what were we like before our downtroddenness? What were we like before we chose wrong? What is our true nature? So that we can weed out all the things that don't belong.
All praises. All praises. Numbers 11. Our people lacking resilience, right? And it came to be when the people were as complainers, it was evil in the ears of Yahuwah, and Yahuwah heard it, and his displeasure burned, and the fire of Yahuwah burned among them and consumed those in the outskirts of the camp. And the people cried out to Moses, and Moses prayed to Yahuwah, and the fire died down. Then he called the name of that place Taberah, because the fire of Yahuwah had burned among them. And the mixed multitude who were in their midst lusted greatly. So the children of Israel also wept again and said, who has given us meat to eat? We remember the fish which we ate without cost in Mizraim, or Egypt, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, the garlic. But now our being is dried up. So a little bit of adversity, and now we tuck and tail and hide, right? Losing it. There is not to look at but this manna. So now your glass is what? half empty, and you don't see just how good you got it. Now the manna was like coriander seed, and its appearance was like the appearance of bdellium. The people went abroad and gathered it, ground it on millstones, or beat it in the mortar and cooked it in a pot and made cakes of it. And its taste was as the taste of cakes baked with oil. And when the dew fell on the camp at night, the manna fell on it. Look at how tough their situation really was.
You didn't have to toil. You didn't have to sow. You just reap it.
Just reaping. And not only are you just reaping, it's not going to be short. There's no shortage on it. He said whatever amount is needful, you're going to have it. Just don't take no more, but it will never be less. So you're always going to have enough. Look at the appearance of it. It's versatile. You can grind it up in the joint, make it as cakes. You can do all these things with it. What other food do you know you can do like this? Right? Like, look at how good the situation was. It don't look nasty. It could have been slop. And he could have been like, well,
Could have been locusts.
could a swarm come by, catch them,
Uh-huh.
right? Knowing that you don't, but nah, he hooked you up. But not looking at the situation the right way, and not looking at the hope of the future, and looking at this as an indication of, and he said that this is nothing compared to the land that we're going to. The land that we're going to is a land of milk and honey and all of those things that was in Egypt. And again, we not going to have to sow none of it. We just going to walk in the land and reap it. Like, but again, not having some resilience when the adversity came caused us to, self-destruct, if you will.
Just there's a reshaping that has to occur, especially here because they're coming out of Misraim, you know, and just something that I have learned, flexibility, being okay when situations don't go your way. It is better to accept what Yahuwah has for you than to expect something from Yahuwah that may or may not happen. You know what I mean? Um, so here, the situation was okay. Well, this may not be what they thought it was going to be, but accepting it is the best way to go because Yahuwah just rescued y'all from Pharaoh with all kind of plagues, and he was in y'all favor. So yeah, there's a mindset that has to be changed here, and then just learning to stay thankful, content, and satisfied with what they have. Unfortunately, we all still struggle. Well, not we all, but some people struggle with this to this day. The glass half full scenario.
Praises.
Yeah, I think a part of it is not really realizing who they were being attached to. Um, Scripture said earlier, there's not a son, there's not one that he claims as his own that he doesn't discipline because he's not going to accept anything in his presence.
Mhm.
So there's a preparation that must take place before you can really fellowship with him. Verse 1 here says that because of complaining, fire broke out.
Mhm.
His judgment went forth. It wasn't understood. It was ignored. It was overlooked.
Mhm.
But here's an opportunity for those that didn't get consumed. Once they started to complain,
Mhm.
to self-check, they may have not known what exactly to do to rid themselves of that nature,
Mhm.
but to at least acknowledge it, they
Mhm.
could have gotten help
Mhm.
so that they can continue on their journey and being prepared to actually fellowship with the Father, with the King of Glory.
Mhm.
And that would have been resilience.
Mhm. Mhm. All praises. All praises. So notice it was the people's lack of resilience when met with adversity that caused them to lose hope for their future. It was this process of the Father's reproof, correction, instruction, and chastening that was designed to get them to the destination, which was the promised land. Just like Aqua's Moray was just expounding on. This caused them to live in the past and not see the Father's compassion in the moment. So not only this, they did not see that their sufferings were designed for their betterment and not their undoing. They had many failures in the wilderness, but we will see that they did not fall in the wilderness because the Father lacked patience or mercy for them in the wilderness, but it was because of their unbelief, right? So he was willing and able to forgive them of their grievances, but when their every thought was rooted in unbelief, there was nothing that could be done for them unless they changed this in their hearts, right? So that's what the issue was, is that it was an unbelief, right? That's why they fell. We see that in Hebrews. We told time and time again that that's why they fell in the wilderness, because of unbelief. All praises.
Yeah, it's like he will wink at your ignorance for a time, but when the heart is full of like evil inclinations, I think that's where the issue comes in. Okay, now you're just flat out trying to do the opposite of what I told you to do. You don't have a care in the world of what I'm saying.
All praises. All praises, because we're gonna see that in this slide right here, that very thing. So Isaiah 22:1, right? And this is speaking to the people at a time where the future was looking bleak, right? Like they know and they're being told that it's gonna get all bad. But we don't see the reason why it's gonna get all bad, right? So the message concerning the valley of vision: what troubles you now that you have gone up to the housetops, you who are filled with turmoils, a noisy city, a city of revelry? Your slain are not slain with the sword. So what's getting them? Nor the dread in battle. All your rulers have fled together. Without a bow, they were taken captive. What got them? All who are found in you are bound together, who have fled from afar. Therefore I said, look away from me, let me weep bitterly. Do not try to comfort me because of the ravaging of the daughters of my people. For it is a day of uproar and treading down and perplexity by the master Yahuwah of hosts in the valley of vision, breaking down of a wall and of crying to the mountains. And Elam bore the quiver with chariots of men and horsemen, and Kir bare the shield. And it shall be that your choicest valleys shall be filled with chariots, and the horsemen shall take up positions at the gate. Then he removed the covering of Yehuda, and you looked in that day to the weapons of the house of the forest, and you saw the breaches of the city of David, that it was great, and you gathered together the waters of the lower pool, and you counted the houses of Jerusalem or Yerushalayim, and the houses you broke down to strengthen the wall, and you dug a ditch between the two walls for the water of the old pool, but you have not looked to its maker, nor have you seen him who fashioned it long ago. And in that day the master Yahuwah of hosts called for weeping and mourning, for baldness and for girding with sackcloth. Then see joy and gladness, killing oxen and slaying sheep, eating meat and drinking wine. Let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we die. So notice what the problem was. He said, nah, y'all should have done like Nineveh did. Judgment is coming, adversity is coming, but as long as you lean on me, it's hope for a brighter future. Who knows? Like they said, who knows? Maybe he'll see and relent. Maybe he'll turn away from his anger. But when you don't even have hope in that, and all you can see is the situation, well, it's bad, ain't no hope for the future, then why turn from a wicked way? We may as well celebrate now, party, right? So that's what they did. They didn't have that resilience to bounce back and to say, okay, well, yeah, this is the situation. And yeah, this is what he's saying, but who knows? Maybe if we get it right, he'll relent. And if he don't relent, then maybe he'll lighten the load a little, the brunt of the blow a little bit, right? Because we know we got in our mind, he's not out to destroy us. That's not what the Father's motive is here. Not unless we force that, right? But a lack of resilience caused them to do what? Just this right here, right? Well, ain't no hope for the future, so we might as well just live it up. Let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we die. Ain't no hope for the future.
It's deep. And it's hard to break down the habitations in order to strengthen the wall. All these things you try to do in your own strength.
Mhm.
One thing they needed to do was to look up,
Mhm.
confess their faults, acknowledging their wrongs,
Mhm.
and ask for his help, plead for his mercy,
Mhm.
but refused.
Mhm.
Mine was given to something else.
Mhm. Mhm.
Or as the scriptures say, the heart was given to something else.
Mhm.
It's deep.
All praises. All praises. So notice here the solution for the people was to tuck tail and give up in the face of adversity. This is the opposite of what the Father expressed in Chronicles when he answered Solomon's prayer. But this is what happens when we are in a drunken state of despair. So for them, there was no hope for the future. So they did not do the very thing that would have caused them to be restored and defended. Right. So Shaul expressed that this mindset is a state of emotional drunkenness when he wrote to those in Corinth. And again, like we were saying in the last lesson, just go and read that first letter to the Corinthians and you'll see, like, no, it was some things that was going on with the body that had to be addressed. And it was some stuff that was going on, right? It says he expressed that each day he fought and chose to die to self day by day because of the hope that he had for the future. This is what made whatever bumps and bruises he received along the way worthwhile. Without this hope of the future salvation, the only other mindset is let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we die. Right? So it's this prospect, this hope of a better future that is keeping him in check. Right? Oh, 1 Corinthians 15:30 says, and why do we stand in danger every hour? Well, why would we stand in danger every hour? Why would we keep on enduring this and keep going out and walking through this walk?
Right.
Why would we keep doing it? On the carnal side, ain't no benefit for us. We getting beat on, we getting killed, we getting persecuted every turn we make. We getting turned over in jail, in prison houses for doing nothing wrong. Why would we keep on fighting this good fight? That's him in his day, right? Here's his answer. He says, I affirm by the boasting in you, which I have in Mashiach Yahusha, our master, I die day by day. If, as men do, I have fought with beasts at Ephesus, of what good is it to me? What is my benefit in this? If I'm fighting as men do? In the carnal, what's my benefit? Why am I doing it? If the dead are not raised,
Come on.
let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we die. If we're not working for the kingdom, then yeah, live it up. Receive the reward in full. But if we working for the kingdom, take the bumps, take the bruises, take the winds and the waves, keep it moving, keep fighting, pushing towards the mark.
Come on.
Right? It says, do not be led astray. Evil company corrupts good habits. Wake up to soberness. Right? So thinking as they was thinking was a drunken mind state.
Yeah.
Righteously, and do not sin, for some do not have the knowledge of Elohim. I speak this to your shame. Right? So again, seeing it, this is one of the enemy's tactics. Get you in a state of despair, not looking towards the future, right? Being a blind man that cannot see afar off, all of these things, opportune time for the enemy to strike. But your resilience is going to be what's okay. How do I bounce back? Yeah, here come the enemy. Here come life. Here comes whatever the case. My experiences, right? But we can either choose was me or we can look towards the brighter future ahead and keep on pressing toward the mark. And if we got that as the goal, then keep on fighting, keep on pushing. So the enemy strikes at moments when we are emotionally unstable because our emotions have the ability to sway our better judgment. With this being said, one of his tactics is to cause you to dwell in an emotional state and blind you from seeing the mercy that the Father has set before you. When this is the case, it limits your ability to see the options you have set before you to combat his attack. With this being said, one who is resilient understands each moment, moment to moment, and responds with optimism, knowing that life continues as long as the Father grants it to us. Right? So going to the right side here, resilience, right? It says, as Ramsey in 2012 posited, resilience should be viewed as both a process and an outcome because the ability to cope under adverse circumstances is partly a result of the experience of living through difficult experiences throughout a lifetime, right? So part of this resilience is, again, like I said earlier, the journey and the destination, right? This is you building this resilience up along the way. It's a process, right? So he says, thus, resilience is not a static concept, but rather continually accumulates over the life course, right? So you're going to continuously and continually be building up resilience. That's the glory from glory, glory to glory, right? This is the day by day, learning more, and now you got this under your belt. You keep pushing and you keep pushing, you keep pushing, you keep pushing, you keep pushing, right?
Yes, sir. Father had said in one place we had hewn out for ourselves broken cisterns that couldn't hold water.
Mhm.
You can look at this process of challenges as him making you a cistern that can hold water,
Mm-hmm.
so that a cup of water might be offered to someone else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All praises. All praises. It says Manning in 2013 argued that the response to these challenges is beyond merely coping, but rather it is about learning, growing, and being positively transformed by adversity.
Come on.
Right?
Very
So-
well said.
All praises. Right? So again, these psychologists that have an understanding of the human and what the human is, and they can even see it.
Yes, sir.
So how can we not being called according to his purpose?
Sometimes we don't understand the blindness that was cast upon us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there is adversity that would have us continue to look outside of ourselves.
Mhm.
But to understand the Father, or like Shaul said, it's shameful to not have a knowledge of him. Learning of him, we realize that he would have us look within first, so that we might be made fit
Mhm.
to be acceptable in his presence, to stand in his course, to even offer him praise.
Mhm.
Because it's written, he doesn't want to just hear it from anybody.
Mhm.
He don't want to hear it from us if we're in a simple state and we haven't even acknowledged that state, so that we might be made ready to turn from it.
Hmm.
But yeah, there was a blindness cast upon us,
Mhm.
and there's residue of it.
Absolutely.
Even after hearing his call,
Hmm.
there's still residue of it. And I
Mhm.
believe it's strategic so that we
Mhm.
might continue to look within and be made fit to do work
Mhm.
without.
Hmm. Hmm.
And because of our immature nature as a whole, and I don't mean that with any disrespect, I just literally mean like
It is what it is.
an infancy stage that has not concluded yet.
Hmm.
And sometimes we put the cart before the horse and try to run before we've learned to walk,
Hmm.
and bring about more shame and pain than
Mhm.
healing and actually shedding light.
Hmm.
Definitely have a lot of growing to do and maturing to do before we are fit to do
Mhm.
major works like the Messiah said those after him would do.
Hmm.
Father's trying to prepare us,
Hmm.
so I do believe we should continue to look within so that the Father can make the appropriate repairs so that we might be made fit and whole so that we can withstand the adversity that comes, that will come when we're trying to help another be redeemed.
Hmm. Hmm. All praises. All praises. It says within this framework, resilience is not a process of merely making it through an adversity, but rather the process of being transformed by it. Right.
All praises.
So really, really important. To what Mario was just bringing out is that thing right there, right? A lot of us have been in the state of just simply getting by and making it through without really understanding and acknowledging the core of why we are where we are, right? This resilience that they're talking about is not just making it through, right? But it's actually learning from the process and being made better by it. That's what the resilience is, right? And not just being made better, but in their words, they said transformed.
Mhm.
All praises.
And it will give you cause to praise the Father when you're going through, when you realize, oh, wait, he's not trying to kill me.
Mhm.
He's trying to heal me. It just
Mhm.
hurts because I'm not yet healed.
Hmm. Excellent. Mhm.
Yeah. Like
Oh,
realizing that you got a hole and you leaking. Father, I don't know why I'm leaking, but I can't deny the fact that I keep getting stuff wet. 'Cause I'm leaking. Still help you be made whole. Just trying to get us to acknowledge.
Hmm. All praises.
It's just how much better is it for us to learn resilience? It's like we are on the earth, um, and the Father wants us to be able to succeed and not dodge, but be able to overcome the obstacles that the adversary sends our way. It's like if we really truly learn how to correctly be resilient, how to overcome, then it's like it gets easier and easier. Like you're saying, just be able to be flexible and bounce back. Um, there's hope for us, like on this earth, and we can be able to enter into the kingdom. But if we can't get that process down, then what's the purpose? Like he's doing the best he can to guide us through, but we have to do our part, and it's not like the narrow path is not easy, you know, and not many find it. But when you are on that path, be prepared. You know, you have to struggle. You have to, be able to go through trials and testing and obstacles. But like you're talking about in the lesson, it really is there for us to build us up and help us just be as pure gold when we go through the fire. You know what I mean? Like we have to go through these things. Otherwise, we're not going to be even fit for the kingdom. So like it really does make sense.
Absolutely. Philippians 3 and 12. He says, not that I have already received or already been perfected, but I press on, right? I ain't saying I got it all figured out, right? But I'm still pressing on. Notice what he's saying. To lay hold of that which Mashiach Yahushua has also laid hold of me. Brothers, I do not count myself to have laid hold of it yet, but only this, forgetting what is behind and reaching out for what lies ahead. Prospect of a better future.
Yes, sir.
I press on toward the goal for the prize of the high calling of Elohim in Mashiach Yahushua. As many then as are perfect should have this mind. And if you think differently in any respect, Elohim shall also reveal this to you. So if you don't think, well, what they say, ain't nobody perfect. Nobody can be perfect. Well, you already counted yourself out. Right? You counted yourself out of the fight. All he's asking for is this. This is what the perfection is that he's looking for. Keep pressing on toward the mark.
Yeah. That mark is making yourself subject unto his authority and humility. Like you don't always have to give the right answer, but to be able to receive correction is your extension of humility to keep you right in the pocket where you need to be.
All praises. He says in verse 16, he says, but to what we have already attained, walk by the same rule, be of the same mind. Unity. Be unified in this state of mind. Right? Oh, Proverbs 24 and 16. 7 times a righteous man falls and rises, but the wrong one stumbles into evil. So to be called righteous, you're going to have a level of resilience. Right? Romans 12 and 1. He says, I call upon you, therefore, brothers, through the compassion of Elohim, to present your bodies a living offering, set apart, well-pleasing to Elohim, your reasonable worship. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed. What did psychologist say? He said, within this framework, resilience is not a process of merely making it through an adversity, but rather the process of being transformed by it. It says, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind so that you prove what is that good and well-pleasing and perfect desire of Elohim. So if you prove the perfect desire of Elohim, does that, as a consequence, make you perfect or perfect you? All praises. So in Psalm 27, we are encouraged to consider the outcome of not believing in the goodness of Yahuwah. In this case, the psalmist understood his adversity as an opportunity to lean on Yahuwah for deliverance. In the face of his adversary, which is an agent for adversity, he called on Elohim with hope and resilience, knowing that enduring the process will only cause his heart to be strengthened if he waits on Elohim. Psalm 27 and 1, it says, Yahuwah is my light and my deliverance. Whom should I fear? Yahuwah is the refuge of my life. Whom should I dread? When evildoers come against me to eat up my flesh, my adversaries and my enemies, they shall stumble and fall. Though an army encamps against me, my heart does not fear. Though battle comes up against me, even then I would be trusting. One matter I asked of Yahuwah, this I seek, to dwell in the house of Yahuwah all the days of my life. eyes on that goal, to see the pleasantness of Yahuwah and to inquire in his hekal. For in the day of evil, he hides me in his booth. In the covering of his tent, he hides me. On a rock, he raises me up. And now my head is lifted up above my enemies all around, and I slaughter in his tent with slaughters of sound. And I sing, yes, I sing praises to Yahuwah. Hear, O Yahuwah, when I cry with my voice, and show me favor and answer me. To my heart you have said, seek my face. Your face, Yahuwah, I seek. Do not hide your face from me. Do not turn your servant away in displeasure. You have been my help. Do not leave me nor forsake me, O you Elohim of my deliverance. When my father and my mother have forsaken me, then Yahuwah does take me in. Teach me your way, O Yahuwah, and lead me in a smooth path because of my enemies. Do not give me over to the desire of my adversaries, for false witnesses have risen against me, and they breathe out cruelty to me. What if I had not believed to see the goodness of Yahuwah in the land of the living? Wait on Yahuwah, be strong, and let him strengthen your heart. Wait, I say, on Yahuwah. Now, it's something interesting when he thinks about that, because I wonder, we see many a times when they would encounter their enemies. What would the enemies tell them? Ain't no point calling on your Elohim. Ain't no point in doing that. Look at so-and-so. Look at so-and-so. Look what we did to them. I just wonder if this is how Hashatan, the adversary, works, right?
I would say, yeah. That's partly why the first part of his strategy is to get you to accept sin. Whether or not it was your idea, just to get you to agree with it. Because that alone is going to shake your confidence in you being defended by the merciful one. So that when you need to call on him, you be shaking in your boots to even ask for help.
All praises.
I would also say that, yeah, that's exactly how it works. Because, like we see periodic, repeatedly, he will throw that seed of doubt in there. And I'm thinking, when it comes when that seed starts to fruit or starts to grow, and now he's got you looking, look at that situation, look at that situation, look outside, look at everything else outside. Forget what the Most High told you. Don't worry about that. Look at the evidence of everything else around you. No, the goal is that we're going to be transformed. That's what's going to happen when we, follow after the Most High's word. We are resilient. We do that. We're going to renew our mind. Our perspective is going to change. We will then essentially, like it says, be transformed. Our opinion is going to get transformed. Our behavior is going to get transformed. We ourselves are going to be transformed into that new creature. Hashtan gonna point out every situation personally, and it don't even have to be nothing outside of yourself. It'll be something inside yourself. Look at what happened previously when you tried it this way before. Look what happened in your life when you did that thing before, when you was going over there and you was trying to do something with that. Look what happened before. Forget about what happened before. If he said, do this now, there's a reason. Do this now. Be resilient in what he said to do now. Because that's where the Baruching and blessing is.
Yeah, and a part of the transformation will happen when you realize, in order for me to be confident in asking for his help, I got to do my best to stay on the up and up. I can't willfully choose sin and then expect him to defend me. So I have to learn to appreciate why he says to do things a certain way. And the more you practice it and you actually write it out, then you get to the end result and you see, oh, wow, he didn't selfishly tell me to do it this way. This is literally for my benefit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Choose moment to moment to ignore what the enemy is saying,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not just one time that he's going to say, see, look at that previously. Look at them.
Mhm.
Did that save them? No, you're going to have to choose moment to moment. You know what? I hear you, but I hear him more. He
Mhm.
said, do this. So I have to ignore what that is.
Mhm. All praises. Hold that thought, what you just said, in mind, because we're going to touch on that very thing here in a little bit. And I want to point out on this, notice what he said. He says that the Father said to his heart, right? So you don't, we're going to dig into it a little bit here in a second, but what verse is that?
Verse 8.
Verse 8. So he says, to my heart you have said, seek my face, your face, you who I seek, right? So this is what the Father is saying. Then you're going to find there's going to be some other voices and some other things that's going to be out there, right? But notice he has to speak this to your heart so that he can get this inside of you. And then we're going to see that it's also going to be something that your own heart is going to be saying as well. So just, yeah, we're going to continue. And then I also want to point out in verse 14, wait on Yahuwah, be strong and let him strengthen your heart. Wait, I say, on Yahuwah. Just, again, keep all that in mind. So resilience is something that we will need in order to continue to fight the good fight. It is found in our ability to turn to Elohim no matter the circumstances that surround us, right? Isaiah 40:27 says, why do you say, O Jacob, and speak, O Israel? My way is hidden from Yahuwah and my rights are overlooked by my Elohim. Like a resilience, right? Did you not know? Have you not heard? The everlasting Elohim, Yahuwah, the creator of the ends of the earth, neither faints nor is weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the faint, and to those who have no might, he increases strength. Even youths shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall stumble and fall. But those who wait on Yahuwah renew their strength. They raise up the wing like eagles. They run and are not weary. They walk and do not faint. That's the bounce back, right? That's what resilience looks like. All praises. As I said, in a broadest sense, resilience is fluid, dynamic, and partially understood as the process of bouncing back. So what they mean, they said in the other slide that it's not static, right? It's fluid, dynamic. This is a day-to-day, action-to-action, moment-to-moment thing. This ain't no one and done thing. And once you got it, you're just set, right? Like, nah, this is a fluid, dynamic, ever-evolving thing. Day-to-day, challenges come. And day-to-day, having to make the choice to be resilient, to meet the adversity with resilience.
I don't know if it was originally a quote from Bruce Lee or if he was quoting somebody else. He was like, be water, my friend. Like, water can flow, water can crash. Put water in a cup, it takes the shape of the cup. You can't know every situation that's going to come your way. But if in that situation, you can fathom the level of humility that the Creator will require from you, then you can go with the flow and stay in the pocket, waiting on Him.
All praises.
I thought this scripture was definitely interesting because young men are known for their strength. But it's telling you here, in your own strength, you'll never make it.
All praises. All praises. Okay, so it says this process reflects a person's ability to adapt well, just like that water. All praises. This process reflects a person's ability to adapt well in the face of adversity and recover from distressing events while managing the related hardships. Manning, 2013. Spiritual resilience is the ability to sustain one's sense of self and purpose through a set of beliefs, principles, or values while encountering adversity, stress, and trauma by using internal and external spiritual resources. Again, this was the psychologists have written this, right? So keep that in mind, right? When we're talking about in the context of dealing with the Father, even they understand that this is your ability to do what? Know yourself.
Yeah.
Know thyself, know thine enemy, right? The enemy is going to tell you what? A lie about self and tell you that no, self is exactly not what the Father has said that you are. Once you buy into that and you believe that, then again, you out to lunch.
You are the Son of God.
Mm,
Cast yourself down.
mm,
If you are the Son of God,
hmm
turn this to bread.
hmm
If you are. But he didn't question who he was.
hmm hmm Excellent point. All praises. Spiritual resilience is the ability to sustain one's sense of self and purpose, pressing towards that mark through a set of beliefs. What do I really believe?
Yeah, you can draw from all the times that the Father has delivered you previously. He's counting on us not to be so forgetful, and to know that that is a bag of resources. Every time that He's shown Himself with us. Now, if we know we have made a wrong turn, then we should know to turn back toward Him. He's unchanging. He wants what's best for us.
That was the thought that I was saying, hold, that we was gonna come back to. That's no, all praises. Like
all praises.
that's the thought. Yeah, like it's that wavelength right there. Like that's the thought. Like we gonna see that this was something that they used to do in the face of adversity to stay encouraged. Like they leaned on, okay, well, we know this is what you did with our fathers. This is what you did with me. This is what, so yeah, this is the situation now. But I'm going to still choose to believe and trust in that future, in whatever is on over there in that promised land. I'm going to keep on pressing towards that because XYZ, look what you done. Like there's a reason why he always reminded Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Y'all know the stories. This is me. Don't forget what I did for you in Egypt. Like he was kept on reminding them of this. Like, nah, lean on that because this is what you're going to need in order to refute what the enemy is saying.
That's right.
I think you mentioned in another slide that adversity is an opportunity to lean on Yahuwah for deliverance. That's an excellent point because if we could just change our mindset, I think that sometimes we're just used to, like you said earlier, woe was me, I'm done, you're through, finished. But it's like, no, take this as an opportunity to build your relationship with Yahuwah. Let your trust be confirmed in Him. Learn to respect, honor Yahuwah, endure, like you said, patience. It really does make us tough and not weak minded. It teaches us how to fight and use spiritual battle gear. Yahuwah is for our good, and it's like if we don't go through adversities, and how do we really know who He is or what He can really do for us or how He can rescue us from those situations? And then, yeah, it really does build us up in Him. So yeah.
All praises. All praises. Notice what they said, what they use, right? It said with the spiritual resilience, they said by using, you can hold on to these beliefs, these principles, these values when you encounter adversity, stress, and trauma by using internal and external spiritual resources, right? You got His word, rely on that. This is what He said. Internal, you got your own experiences, your own bank of dealings with the Father that you can lean on, right? You have your mishpachah. Well, if I seen He did it with you. You do it with me, right? We have all of these resources at our hands, seen and unseen. If we just take the first step in the initiative of being resilient. So here's that point, right? This is what's called in the literature, it's called a Barkai Nafshi, which basically is the same word as Baruch and then Nefesh. So it's bless my soul, right? Bless my being, right? But they're using it as a command to their being, right? So you find these throughout the literature. Psalm 103 is an example of it. It's also in the Dead Sea Scrolls 4Q 434 by the title of Barkai Nafshi. But yeah, you'll see that this is that practice that we were talking about, right? It says, bless Yahuwah, O my being, and all that is within me. Bless his set apart name. Why is he commanding his being to do that? Is there something in the nature of his being that don't want to do it?
Precisely. Scripture that says, bring all thoughts into subjection,
Mm-hmm.
into humility,
Mm-hmm.
into subjection,
Mm-hmm.
following at the example of Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
This is how it's done.
Mhm.
Recognize, oh, wait a minute, my mind is going astray. If I
Mhm.
write this out, it ain't going to end well.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, put something in its place. That's for your toe. That's for your benefit.
Mm-hmm. All praises. It says, bless Yahuwah, O my being, and do not forget all his dealings. Remember the stuff that he undone. Remember his name, what he said, and what he stand for.
Yeah.
I don't know why you want to forget. Being, self, remember it. Right? Who forgives all your crookednesses, who heals all your diseases, who redeems your life from destruction, who crowns you with loving commitment and compassion, who satisfies your desire with the good. Your youth is renewed like the eagles. So remember we was just talking about the young men and how your strength is going to be renewed. This is that process. This is how it's renewed. Right? It's all in the resilience. Right? Keep on pressing towards the mark. But you have to have the belief. This is why the biggest issue was their unbelief. You got to have the belief to say, okay, look, ain't no change in the past. Don't want to go back to the past, right? We don't want to go back to Egypt. This is what it is. We in this wilderness right now, but let's look at this glass as half full, right? From this point forward, we got this manna. Instead of all we got is this manna, right? Like, no, having this resilience and relying on the Father being who he is. Not on your own strength, because he done already told you. It ain't there. But on him, yeah, no, that's what you lean on, right? He says, I'm gonna start at verse 5. He says, who satisfies your desire with the good. Your youth is renewed like the eagles. Yahuwah is doing righteousness and right ruling for all the oppressed. He made known his ways to Moses, his acts to the children of Israel. Yahuwah is compassionate and showing favor, patient and great in loving commitment. He does not always strive, nor maintain it forever. So even when the chastisements and the chastenings come, he's saying, hey, accept it. Because as long as you endure through that and you accept the reproof, it's a brighter future for you. The only loss is if you don't. Right?
Yes, sir.
So he says, he is not done to us according to our sins. Ox says it all the time. He don't shoot and miss. If he wants you, he got you. So the fact that you still here and he giving you the opportunity to keep on enduring.
Yeah.
Nor rewarded us according to our crookednesses. For as the heavens are high above the earth, so great is his loving commitment toward those who fear him.
Giddy be beat, that's all, folks. Fear him,
That part.
not everything else.
Hmm.
When we are overcome by the fear of something other than him, it shuts down our option to believe and
That
to trust
part.
in him. It literally shuts down your options. You
Hmm.
can't fully appreciate what you do have and what he has done
Hmm.
because you're shell shocked.
Hmm.
So when you realize that's trying to overcome you, command your ruach.
Hmm. 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 All praises. He says, as far as the east is from the west, so far has he removed our transgressions from us. As a father has compassion for his children, so Yahuwah has compassion for those who fear him. For he knows how we are made. He remembers that we are dust. As a man's days are like grass, as a flower of the field, so he flourishes. For the wind blows it over, and it is no more, and its place no longer remembers it. But the loving commitment of Yahuwah is from everlasting to everlasting, upon those who fear him, and his righteousness to children's children. So, if you like the grass, I mean, one day is you can be up, and the next minute you can be done in your own strength, right?
Yeah.
But his loving commitment, everlasting to everlasting, ain't no beginning, ain't no end. If you can tap into that, so lean on that, right? Barkai Nafshi, bless you, who oh my soul. Remember his ways. Remember his name. Remember all the stuff that he's done. That's from everlasting to everlasting. All praises. So he says, to those who guard his covenant and to those who remember his orders to do them, Yahuwah has established his throne in the heavens, and his reign shall rule over all. Bless Yahuwah, you his messengers, mighty in power, who do his word, listening to the voice of his word. Bless Yahuwah, all you his hosts, you his servants who do his pleasure. Bless Yahuwah, all his works, in all places of his rule. Bless Yahuwah, O my being.
Hallelujah.
All praises. David spoke of his resilience in Psalm 30. All right, so he says, I exalt you, O Yahuwah, for you have drawn me up and have not let my enemies rejoice over me. Yahuwah, my Elohim, I have cried to you, and you have healed me. Yahuwah, you brought me up from Sheol. You have kept me alive from going down into the pit. Brought me right there to the edge. I was able to bounce back. You kept me. You gave me the resources and the ability to bounce back. Sing praise to Yahuwah, you lovingly committed ones of his, and give thanks at the remembrance of his set apartness. So again, leaning on that remembrance of his set apartness. For his displeasure is for a moment, his delight is for life. Weeping might last for the night, but joy comes in the morning. Endure. Have some resilience. Keep on pushing. Be transformed by this moment because it's going to come to pass. Joy is going to come in the morning.
Come on. It said by the Messiah that he must work his work while he was here because the night was coming. No man could work. Rubber band about to get stretched out. It was also said in another place, there's only 12 hours in a night.
Day. Yep.
And there's 12 hours in a day. So that night's not going to last forever. If you will but endure. The Son of Righteousness shall rise with healing in his wings. All praises to the King of Glory. And we're on this side of so much suffering. Now, literally, all we have to do is yield our mind, our members, our will, everything that we have unto him and seek him 10 times harder. And we don't sought anything else. So that we might benefit from the healing that's in the wings of the sun. As day is breaking. endure what we got to endure so that he can show us what we need to see, and we can do our part
Mm-hmm.
and reform to our original shape,
Mm-hmm.
to the essence of who we truly are.
Mm-hmm. All praises. And then the thought just comes to my mind, considering the rubber band, when it's stretched, is not in a state of stability. Or when it rebounds and it comes back in place, it is returned to its stable state, a state of stability. When you think about anything that's stretched out like that, there's a built up energy, a built up tension,
Mhm.
right? When it comes back to a state of stability, it's at rest, it's at ease, right?
As I was listening in and I'm thinking about that scripture, it just makes me like it was coming to my mind. Weeping may endure for a night. Weeping may endure through the ignorance because it's a time of darkness. When you look at that word, like you, it's, just for me, when I was looking at that word, it's like you're trying something, you're trying to do, you fail at it. It's the connotation that the Hebrew letters kind of spoke to me. It's like you do something, you fail at it, and you learn on the other end of it.
Mhm.
That's the night, that's the
Mhm.
sleep, that's the ignorance.
Mhm.
You're trying it, you failed at it, or you did not, it wasn't perfect, but you've learned from that, and you come out on the other
Mhm.
end. So weeping may endure for a night. Kind of says to me, weeping may endure through the ignorance or through the darkness of your situation, just like we were speaking about earlier. Um, in that being resilient, you have to ignore everything else, that all the evidence of other things that are around you. The weeping might endure, even though you see or have experienced, okay, that person, that didn't work for them, that didn't work for them, that didn't work for them. Like we brought up in that scripture, how the enemy would, or the enemies of the nation would say, listen, don't even try to call on your Elohim. Don't even try to call on him, because that didn't work for the other nations. In our own lives, we might have that internal voice saying, look how it worked out with them. Don't worry about trying to let us eat meat, because tomorrow we die. Listen,
Mhm.
weeping might endure while there's ignorance,
Mhm.
but with understanding comes joy, with the resilience. And after that transformation, like it says in another place, obey the law first, then comes the understanding.
Mhm.
So with that understanding, with the sun rising with healing in his wings,
Mhm.
the sun rising with healing in his wings, that joy, that understanding, that's going to be the healing, that's going to
Mhm.
help us. That's just what it,
Thought that it's gonna be all right when adversity comes.
Mhm.
yeah, that transformation.
Mhm.
Listen, and that's
Mhm.
the transformation. Like, ooh, I done made it through that, and you got
Mhm.
me through that, Father.
Mhm.
All praises. So I know I can. My relationship with you is further strengthened. I know I can deal with it. Not only do I know I can deal with that, but if it comes around again, I know how to deal with it, so I can come out
Mhm.
up out of it even stronger again, or faster, or whatever the case
Mhm.
may be. So that's
Mhm.
just what it was. The While I was listening to it, I was thinking on that. Weeping may endure for a night. Weeping may endure for through the ignorance, but the joy is going to come in the morning. The joy is going to come when the sun rises, with healing in its wings. That's it.
Mhm. All praises. Wise words of Aaliyah. First, you don't succeed. Dust yourself off a track.
Hallelujah.
uh,
Hallelujah.
but yeah, like that's what it's about. Like all praises. All praises. Yeah. Verse 5, he says, "For his displeasure is for a moment, his delight is for life. Weeping might last for the night, but joy comes in the morning. As for me, I have said in my ease, never would I be shaken. Yahuwah, in your good pleasure, you have made my mountain to stand strong. You hid your face, and I was troubled. I cried to you, O Yahuwah, and to Yahuwah I prayed." And listen to that process.
Hmm.
Like when I was at ease, I was on top of the world.
Uh-huh.
A young man relying on my strength.
Mhm.
I'm thankful that you didn't allow the building to collapse. Because sure enough, when the trouble came, I cried out and I called on you because I realized just how real it was.
Come on.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Mm.
That sounds about right.
Says, what gain is there in my blood when I go down to the pit? Would dust praise you? Would it declare your truth? Hear, O Yahuwah, and show me favor. Yahuwah, be my helper. You have turned my mourning into dancing for me. You have torn off my sackcloth and girded me with gladness, so that esteem might praise you and not be silent. O Yahuwah, my Elohim, I thank you forever. So it's something about this process that the Father is trying to get you to a certain point so that he can get a certain thing out of you so you can be a light to others.
Come on.
Right?
Come on.
But it takes enduring this process and going through this. Right?
Yes,
He said in his ease, I'm never going to be moved.
Mm-hmm. And in that mindset, there's certain things that are agreeable to dark forces.
Mm-hmm.
Father is trying to shape us up to where
Mm-hmm.
when he allows dark force to come into our midst, they don't find a place of rest.
Mm-hmm.
We can't always see exactly what those things are,
Mhm.
so we have to trust his processes, realize when he's trying to show us that a door is open, and we actually ask him, Father, why is this door open?
Mhm.
Help me to close it, because I know in my own strength I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But if we won't acknowledge it, then what more
Mhm.
can he do?
Mm-hmm. All praises. All praises. Excellent point. Like it's one thing to be cleaned up, but we already know how these things on that side work. No, it's cleaned up, but it's empty.
Uh-huh.
Unless
King of Glory ain't occupying
Yeah.
that thing.
I'm gonna need some help to kick the door down. Come on, y'all.
Mhm.
I can't do it by myself, but if you come with me, right?
Uh-huh.
So that's how, like, notice when we saw it, that's why he said, the Father said to his heart, nah, put this in there. Think on me.
Yeah.
Lean on me. Right? All praises. Excellent point. All praises. So Peter's resilience. So last lesson we looked at Peter, and we in the home stretch now. But last lesson we looked at Peter, and we saw how Peter, he didn't do too hot, right? When the trial came, he didn't do too hot, right? He failed the test. But we're gonna see that, like, we've looked at this before, but like there were things that took place that built up his resilience so that he could be shaped and molded into what it was that the Father saw in him the whole time. Right? It was a reason why he was chosen by Mashiach.
Come on.
So 1 Peter 4:12, he says, beloved ones, do not be surprised. And that word for surprise is to think it foreign or strange. Right? Ain't nothing foreign about this. This is stuff that's common to all men. Right? At the fiery trial that is coming upon you to try you, as though some unusual matter has befallen you. But as you share Mashiach's sufferings, rejoice in order that you might rejoice exultingly at the revelation of his esteem. If you are reproached for the name of the Mashiach, you are blessed, because the spirit of esteem and of Elohim rest upon you. On their part, he is blasphemed, but on your part, he is praised. For do not let any of you suffer as a murderer, or thief, or doer of evil, or as a meddler. But if one suffers being believer in Mashiach, let him not be ashamed, but let him esteem Elohim in this matter, right? So don't look at this as you just want to suffer for righteousness' sake and not for wickedness' sake. If you suffering for righteousness' sake, then count that all joy. If you suffering for wickedness' sake, well, look to the future, get it right.
Come on.
But don't look at this like this is a strange thing and oh, woe is me. I don't know why this is happening.
Or like you've been singled out.
Mm. Always me. I don't know why I'm being messed with. Nah, this is just the way life works.
Mhm.
It's the way it works.
It comes with the territory.
Mm.
Like
Hmm.
even in the earliest stage of choosing righteousness, it can be easy to identify that adversity doesn't really come to the lukewarm.
Mm.
Although you may not have it all together, the more serious you get about trying to stand up rightly, the more you stick out in a society that's governed by darkness,
Mhm.
by wickedness. Like literally, it says that the earth, the world was given into the hands of the wicked. So in the midst of their domain, yeah, you stick out like a sore thumb when you
Mhm.
start trying to get it right. So this literally comes with the territory.
Mhm.
But it's written in a place that the Father has not made anything haphazardly. One thing proves another.
Mhm.
So the adversity will prove your fidelity, or the adversity will prove your faith, or the adversity will prove your righteousness, as long as you continue to choose to wait on the Father.
Mhm.
Realizing that, as you said earlier, waiting on Him is not static. It doesn't mean you do nothing,
Mhm.
but it means that you stay in the groove you're supposed to be in while you're traveling on your journey, trying to complete your quest.
Mhm. Mhm. All praises. All praises. Verse 17, he says, because it is time for judgment to begin at the house of Elohim, just like Ak was saying. And if, firstly, from us, what is the end of those who do not obey the good news of Elohim? If the righteous one is scarcely saved, where shall the wicked and the sinner appear? So then, those who suffer according to the desire of Elohim should commit their lives to a trustworthy creator in doing good. All right, so notice Peter can speak in this way because this was his experience. He learned resilience the hard way by seeing first what he lacked. We talked last lesson about how Peter allowed the enemy to best him during trial. What we will see is that Peter did not allow that moment to define him and his future. This is, by definition, resilience,
Hallelujah.
right? John 21:1. It says, after this, Yahushua manifested himself again to the taught ones at the Sea of Kinnereth, and he manifested this way: Simon Peter, Simon Kepha, and Thomas called the twin, and Nathanael of Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and two others of his taught ones were together. Simon Peter, Simon Kepha said to them, I am going to fish. They said to him, we are also coming with you. They went out and immediately entered into the boat. And that night they caught none at all. But when it became early morning, something about the sun rising, Yahusha stood on the beach. However, the taught ones did not know that it was Yahusha. But Yahusha said to them, children, have you any food? They answered him, no. And he said to them, throw the net on the right side of the boat, and you shall find. So in order to throw the net back in the boat, you got to have a level of what? Resilience. We done been out here all night. We done failed. We done failed. We done failed. We done failed. We didn't get nothing. But with that prospect of, well, maybe there's hope for a future.
Yeah.
Throw the net back in the water. What is it gonna hurt? I'm better off throwing it back in the water and pulling up nothing. And hey, at least I tried. Then the missing out on the opportunity of throwing it down and catching something. Right?
Yeah.
My mother used to tell me, still says it all the time. Nothing beats a failure but a try. It is the truth. What verse were we at? We were at verse 6. Yeah, verse 6. And he said to them, throw the net on the right side of the boat, and you shall find. So they threw, and they were no longer able to draw it in because of the large number of fish. And that's the thing that the adversary don't want you to bank on and don't want you to know. It's just how close you are to the finish line, or just how close you might be to whatever the breakthrough is, right?
That part.
Like whatever is over that threshold, he wants to count you out before you can get across it, right? But healing is in the morning, right?
Hallelujah.
Verse 7. That taught one whom Yahusha loved, then said to Kepha or Peter, it is the master. Then Simon Peter or Simon Kepha, hearing that it was the master, put out his outer garment, for he was stripped, and plunged into the sea. And the other taught ones came in the little boat, for they were not far from land, but about 200 cubits, dragging the net with fish. So when they had come to land, they saw a fire of coals there, and fish laid on it, and bread. Yahusha said to them, bring some of the fish which you have now caught. Simon Peter went up and dragged the net to land, filled with 153 big fish. And though there were so many, the net was not broken. Now, keep in mind, this is that rebound or that resetting, that coming back to the beginning, right? And but through all of this, and he done got stretched out to the, and now this is the Father's way, Mashiach bringing him back to where it all started. This is the reset. This is how he met him, right? Same thing is happening again. No, there's a reason why I called you in the first place, right? There's a reason why I chose you in the beginning. And now he's redoing this scenario, going back through this cycle again. And now we're going to see how the reset is going to happen. Now he's prepared. After being stretched, coming back, the resilience, now he's going to be ready.
Just made me think when you gave the example with the rubber band, the only way you can really be broken is if the Father cuts you off. The Father cuts it. So allow that stretching. Let it be so. It's better for that, that you, and so you can be able to learn and grow, and learn how to be obedient to Yahuwah. Otherwise, if you're gonna cut the rubber band right in half, then there's nothing left. You know what I mean?
Like he said, when smelting silver, I put it back in the furnace because I said, well, maybe the heat wasn't hot enough. Back in the fire it goes, but eventually it's gonna get to a point where it ain't gonna be nothing left. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, this is the process, and all we have to do is accept that as the process and let him purify us.
Indeed.
It says, Yahusha said to them, come, have breakfast. And not one of the taught ones had the courage to ask him, who are you? Knowing that it was the master. Yahusha came and took the bread and gave it to them, and the same with the fish. This was now the third time Yahusha was manifested to his taught ones after he was raised from the dead. When therefore they had eaten breakfast, Yahusha said to Simon Peter, or Simon Kepha, Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me more than these? Now, we won't go into it because we at the end today, but just there's this connection between Peter and Jonah. If you look at the land that Peter is from, you look at the whole, like Peter, if John was Elijah, Peter is Jonah. I just put it like that. Oh, just something to keep in mind. hmm hmm He says, "Do you love me?" And he said to him, "Yes, master, you know that I love you." He said to him, "Shepherd my sheep." And he said to him the third time, "Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me?" And Peter was sad because he said to him the third time, "Do you love me?" And he said to him, "Master, you know all. You know that I love you." And Yahusha said to him, "Feed my sheep. Truly, truly, I say to you, when you were younger, you girded yourself and walked where you wished. But when you are old, you shall stretch out your hands, and another shall gird you and bring you where you do not wish." Now this he said, signifying what death he would esteem Elohim. And having said this, he said to him, "Follow me." So yeah, that mean it's always gonna be easy? Nah, he telling them off rip, be resilient. This is what's gonna happen, but it's gonna be for the esteem of Elohim, for you to receive that crown. Like that's what this whole thing is about. The hardships, the wind, the waves, they're gonna come. But the point is, again, that we can be made in that image that the Father wants us to be, how he sees us, right? Acts 5:40, right? After all of this is taking place, it says, "And they heeded his advice." Peter is in this group, and having called for the emissaries, beating them and commanded that they should not speak in the name of Yahusha and let them go. Then indeed they went rejoicing from the presence of the council, because they were counted worthy to suffer shame for his name. And daily in a set apart place and in every house, they did not cease teaching and bringing the good news, Yahusha the Mashiach. Right. So we saw a whole transformation and a whole building up of this resilience through that process, and through him actually looking at his failures and looking at him and saying, "Okay, nah, I do got this." He sees it. Now I know it. And yeah, there are some other writings. You can take them, do with them what you will, but they talk about how he met his fate, and yeah, choosing to be hung upside down and all of these sorts of things. Like, but yeah, it's a case of resilience.
Yeah, that is the goal.
Yeah, all praises. So yeah, with that being said, Hebrews 4:11 again, let us therefore do our utmost to enter into that rest, lest any fall after the same example of disobedience. For the word of Elohim is living and working and sharper than any two-edged sword, cutting through even to the dividing of being and spirit, and of joints and of marrow, and able to judge the thoughts and intentions of the heart. For there is no creature hidden from his sight, but all are naked and laid bare before the eyes of him with whom is our account. Right. So I've been long-winded enough with that. I'm saying shalom. Um, yeah, I'm told me, oh, I appreciate y'all's patience. Yeah. All praises.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a Tov lesson needed for me, especially the glass half full, glass half empty part. Everything. Well said. Definitely needed for the building of the people. And yeah, that if we can only just understand truly what it means to endure, endure until the end, and just have patience throughout the process. I think the adversary really does want us to think that it's not worth it. But no, like the goal, like I always say, is the kingdom of Elohim. And then just the unity of we all are going through a lot of similar, situations, maybe in on different levels, or maybe the same level, but we all can relate. Um, and yeah, if we can just make sure we stay united with the people Abihu has surrounded us with, and then just encouraging one another, encouraging ourselves. I say that again because it could be hard, you know, because you can get discouraged very easily looking at previous situations. But if we understand, like I said earlier, this is for the building of us in Yahuwah, then we can understand our purpose in this life and just really be happy with it, you know, be content with the whole process of it because it really is for our good, it's for our tov. So yeah, definitely beautiful lesson. I took a lot of pointers down and we'll be reviewing throughout the week. And may Abihu continue to be with us.
Praises.
Hallelujah. That Father continue to keep us,
Hmm.
rock us, help us become more like Him,
Mm-hmm.
less like the world.
Mm-hmm.
With that, say shalom.
Shalom, shalom. Praises.